Roman 19. Unsafe space, Roman 2. Luck awoke a few hours later, around the middle of the day, with the voices seeming to have followed them to this next destination. They fell asleep in peace but were awakened with a sense of terror within their mind. They rolled out of bed and proceeded downstairs. To their surprise, one of their relatives was still on the premises. Usually, they would be at work at this time. Luck greeted them and then went into the garden for some fresh air. Over the next day, they did very little, eating and drinking minimally, and watching entertainment to pass the time. They were in no condition to work, and Luck had been notified by the relative that they had spoken to one of their colleagues about the ongoing situation. That night, Luck's condition gradually worsened. We mentioned before how it had leveled off. Well, here, their health was definitely deteriorating. Luck barely slept with voices that were not their own continuously running through their mind. There were those they had met previously, so-called friends, and many they could not identify. Luck awoke again in the afternoon of the next day, this time to more visions and voices of their current environment. On this particular occasion, Luck was convinced that two of their old friends were in the building next to them, locked in the attic. They were communicating this information to them, and they were stuck because their employer had left them without the means to get out. Luck acknowledged the request and knocked on their neighbor's door, asking for help for those inside who needed assistance. The neighbors smiled at them in puzzlement and then closed the door. On returning to their room, Luck's mind was filled with laughter and mockery regarding the actions they had just taken. However, those voices that had requested this action began to subside from this point onwards. Luck spent the remainder of their day inside their room, watching and listening to entertainment. Eventually, Luck dozed back into a sleep. That night, Luck woke from another vivid vision, causing them to jolt upright in bed. They didn't want to believe what they had experienced. We won't describe the details of this vision, but it involved Jack and their relatives' laughter turning against them. This particular vision was persistent, and for the sake of this story, we will only reveal it occurred here, with the possibility of revisiting it later. The voices continued to increase that night, and Luck couldn't fall back to sleep. Shortly after waking from the last vision, they began to have a conversation with a fictional foreign king they had never met in person or heard speak their mother tongue. However, the voice spoke in broken English with an accent that Luck could correlate back to a certain country, the one where their journey had begun. Luck reminisced about a time when they had been near the king of this country before. During that encounter, they had been requested to sit in a specific position as the king was driven past them. The voice within now asked Luck to replicate this, and they abided by sitting in the same position on top of their bed. After a few moments, Luck returned to their old position, and this particular voice subsided for the time being, with others taking over. After another period of time, in search of solace, Luck became increasingly frustrated with the persistent voices and chose to seek some fresh air. They walked downstairs and out into the garden, where they settled into a chair in the middle of the quiet, moonlit lawn. At this moment, Luck's physical condition had deteriorated significantly. Not only were they suffering from the mental torment of the relentless voices, but their body was also weakened due to the lack of proper nutrition and essential supplements. However, there was another underlying factor contributing to their declining health, a revelation that will be disclosed in due time. Sitting on that chair, Luck experienced a profound sense of distress. Their mind was overwhelmed by the relentless voices. Their heart raced, their breath came in rapid gasps, and they felt as though they were on the verge of a physical breakdown, akin to a metaphorical heart attack. In that moment of intense distress and vulnerability, Luck gazed up at the night sky, their thoughts filled with a sense of finality. What unfolded before their eyes was a spectacle of unparalleled beauty. The galaxy of stars illuminated the sky, creating a breathtaking display of celestial wonder that Luck had never witnessed before. As the minutes passed and Luck continued to contemplate the awe-inspiring cosmic display above, a sense of calm washed over them. Gradually, their physical state began to stabilize. They understood that in order to recover, they needed to regain a healthy sleep cycle that would allow them to function during the day. Yet, the unrelenting chorus of voices persisted, coming at them from every direction. Luck eventually returned to their room, sought refuge in their electronic device, immersing themselves in the world of entertainment. It was a means to reconnect with the tangible reality, seeking solace and grounding in real-world information, even as the voices continued to echo within their mind. The next morning, Luck's frustration grew as they found themselves locked out of the garden, which had become a sanctuary of sorts for brief moments of respite from the incessant voices within. The key was missing, which left them feeling trapped. A short while later, Luck entered the kitchen to find their relative had returned. Luck engaged in a conversation with that relative about why they were persistent in keeping the door locked. The conversation turned heated and became physical on the relative's side. Luck was pushed up against the door. They, however, remained calm without retaliating. The intense disagreement with their relative had left Luck highly agitated. Moments later, a being that they would later find out to be a health professional entered the premises. Luck, still flustered from their engagement with their relative, dismissed them and asked them to leave as they were not in a state of mind with which they could engage. A few hours passed before Luck's relative conveyed the message that they would be collected that night, though they didn't specify by whom. Yet, Luck had a strong feeling that it might be one of their siblings who would come to collect them up. With the expectation of a brief absence, Luck packed only the essentials in their hand luggage, electronic devices, and a spare change of clothes. They were preparing for a short stay elsewhere, assuming they would be back soon. We will mention the building work that has no relevance besides the same being outside the next window. We could expand on mental engagements that have no actual meaning within the story. We could explain Luck went to but failed to see a friend turning to go back down the alley. We cannot confirm any voice to be truthful inside of our mind, just that we can identify when they are not our own. Thus, what we write and who we correlate has to be understood in that way. Those within are historical. Those external are alive, and we communicate with both. Roman 20, a royal trip. As the evening arrived, Luck's sibling did not arrive as they expected. Instead, another health professional appeared. Luck, feeling more composed than before, engaged with them to some extent. The professional informed Luck that they would need to go to a clinic once again. Recognizing that they no longer had a choice in the unfolding situation, Luck complied as their relative signed the necessary paperwork, which would result in them being sectioned for up to 6 months this time. The professional briefly left the property and returned with 3 other professionals who were there to escort Luck to their next destination. At the time, Luck was unaware of where they were going or how long it would take to get there. They simply followed the orders and entered the emergency transportation vehicle. On entering, they noticed that there were 2 additional professionals who would be their driver and company pilot for the journey. These 2 professionals were of the opposite gender from the other 3 who followed Luck into the back of the vehicle. Luck sat in the middle of the back seat with 2 of the professionals on either side and one sitting opposite to their right. Inside the vehicle, Luck also noticed some recording equipment, which could be of significance. The journey began to the unknown destination, but within Luck, voices suggested they were going to another destination entirely, one that held great significance within their motherland. Following this internal logic, Luck began to relax and spent some time gazing through the window at the dark night scenery flashing by. As the journey continued, Luck's inner voices felt like they were coming from the outside again. They looked around, but there wasn't much conversation happening in reality. However, as Luck turned their head, they could internally hear mutterings and some new voices they had not encountered before. It was as if there was a room full of beings that could see through Luck's own eyes or at Luck via the recording devices in the vehicle. They could also communicate directly with them through something akin to telepathy. Telepathy was something that, before this story began, Luck considered unrealistic, something they would only find interesting within the context of science fiction entertainment. However, since this journey began, telepathy had quickly become a more plausible and realistic concept for Luck. As mentioned, Luck could now communicate with several new beings from within their own mind. Some of these beings were familiar to Luck in the sense that they had seen or heard of them during events in the public domain but had never actually met them. Others, however, were completely unfamiliar to Luck, and they had no internal association with them. At this time, the voices in Luck's mind included what could be described as celebrities, politicians, and even individuals with royal standing. Among them, the most prominent and recognizable figures were the foreign king and then a new one, who was the queen of Luck's own motherland. During this part of the journey, Luck found themselves in a surreal situation, engaging in telepathic conversations with various individuals. On one occasion, the Queen politely requested that Luck sit in a particular manner during their telepathic conversation. Although this request struck Luck as odd, they complied, assuming the posture as instructed by the invisible Queen, mirroring their previous interaction with the King. After about an hour, with the voices persisting, Luck's stomach began to rumble. Having not eaten anything that day, they decided to speak and asked if they could stop for food, explaining their hunger. The professionals responded that they couldn't stop for food. However, the professional sitting to Luck's right mentioned that they had some food with them and offered it to Luck. Luck thanked the professional and accepted the snack. As Luck was eating, the conversations within their mind continued, but they tried to maintain a civilized demeanor throughout. After finishing, Luck sat back into the position they were requested to assume earlier and continued on their journey. There is not much more Luck can say about the nonsensical virtual conversations they had until nearing the end of the journey. New voices would enter Luck, explaining to them that their last opportunity to escape from their current situation would soon arrive. Although Luck was still unsure about their destination, they had been traveling for over 2 hours at this point. The voices instructed Luck that the vehicle would soon pull over, and they should take the opportunity to exit through the right door. With this knowledge, Luck contemplated whether the vehicle would indeed pull over, and if it did, should they go for the door. They pondered this for a few minutes until the vehicle actually pulled into a park, where the two drivers then exited the vehicle and were replaced by others. During this time, Luck also stood up from their seat, half expecting to be let out of the vehicle themselves. However, the other professionals who were seated in the back reassured Luck that this was not their stop. Thus, Luck sat back down and waited for the vehicle to depart once again. Around half an hour later, the vehicle pulled into what Luck could only describe as a manor, an extensive estate with its own driveway, several properties, and acres of land around it. On exiting the vehicle, Luck discovered that it had been converted into a mental health clinic, and yet again, they would be locked inside of it. Next, we will go into more detail with a few other voices from those righteous political leaders. However, we should emphasize who knows the whole truth here. We can only write from our perspective, which is only part of that without hard factual evidence of how this is achieved. The name Day Winner. Roman 21. Psychosis Part Roman 2. Luck was escorted into the institution and taken to a room to process the belongings they had brought. As mentioned, they had packed and traveled light, only understanding their destination once it was too late. Luck was then confined to this room for a short while before being shown to their designated room. During this time, the voices continued to alternate within their mind. Upon entering their room, they realized that there was no cleaning facility available. However, they were informed just across from their room there was. Recognizing that it had been a while since they had thoroughly cleaned themselves, Luck decided it would be a good idea to take a shower before attempting to get some rest. Upon entering the bathroom, Luck's internal voices changed once again. This time, they took on the personas of two familiar figures who had been prominent in the public eye during the global pandemic. These figures were the then and the current prime ministers of Luck's motherland, both easily recognizable due to their distinctive tones. Having experienced numerous voices within their mind up to this point, Luck was no longer surprised by their presence. However, this time, the issue was the mockery and ridicule they were attempting to condemn upon Luck. As Luck undressed and moved around the unclean facility, the two voices echoed in their mind, questioning their every movement and mocking the state of the facilities. The voices even ridiculed Luck by suggesting sarcastic improvements to the environment. Luck was in no state to debate back, feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. They returned to their room, climbed into bed, and attempted to escape the relentless voices by seeking solace in sleep. Luck managed only some sleep that night. It was a night filled with disturbed dreams. Luck experienced hooded figures observing them as they slept, punks wreaking havoc on their old home, and Stiefel frantically searching for them throughout their motherland. The following day, Luck was awoken by a knock on their door. A healthcare professional requested their participation in a ward-round assessment. Although hesitant, Luck consented, making sure to wear a mask to conceal the involuntary mouth movements that persisted during this ordeal. Luck descended the stairs and entered the office designated for the ward round. With a subtle fist pump, they greeted the lead professional before taking a seat to share their situation. Luck proceeded to narrate their story up to this point using only their real-world experiences, refraining from elaborating on the internal voices that haunted them. After Luck had finished recounting their story, the professional responded in a similar manner to the previous one. They recommended that Luck resume taking the medication that had helped them recover in the past. Luck agreed to this plan, just wanting to return to their room. During the next 2 days, Luck's experiences continued to fluctuate between dreams and reality, with recurring visions and new, sometimes unsettling ones. They imagined going on a holiday to the moon and also found themselves in distressing scenarios, such as being a target for assassination. Luck's mind continued to be flooded with visions and experiences. In some, they found themselves in the midst of military scenarios, with generals issuing commands and identifying vulnerabilities. At times, they were so immersed in these visions that they would react physically, like rolling off the bed to take cover from imaginary threats. In other moments, they followed mental instructions on how to escape, even if only partially acting on these directives. As the days passed, the intensity of the voices gradually diminished, and by the 4th day in the institution, Luck awoke feeling closer to their normal self. On this day, Luck managed to make it to the scheduled breakfast and use the cleaning facilities. However, they realized they had few clothes with them and would need to communicate with a relative to arrange for more to be sent, as the relative was too far away to commute to the institution. After cleaning up, Luck decided to open their communication device to check on what was happening in the outside world. To their shock, they discovered that the traveler friend they had last spoken with before leaving the beach facility had been in a severe road accident, and the other person involved had left the traveler's fate uncertain on the side of the road. Connecting this new information with the recent experiences they had endured, Luck couldn't help but question the reality of it all. Luck realized that within the hospital, they were unable to provide any help to their injured friend, or what help could they provide other than trying to understand their situation fully, a still incomplete task. They acknowledged that their priority should be to get discharged from their current section so they could plan for the future. Understanding that they needed to regain their stability and mental clarity, Luck decided to concentrate on that goal. The following day, Luck would return to work, sharing their situation with their colleague before restarting the contract and fulfilling an entire day. They adhered to the clinic schedule while balancing their work responsibilities over the next week. One day, nearing the end of the 2nd week of their stay, a professional knocked on Luck's room door. They requested Luck's participation in some routine checks, including a test for narcotics. Luck agreed, partly due to their personal interest in the matter, given their recent experiences and the fact that they had never received the results from the previous tests. It was not too much of a surprise when the test returned positive instantly. The professional was on edge when they showed Luck the results. They had been poisoned with animal tranquilizer. They wondered whether there could have been more, how accurate these tests were, and which substances they were designed to identify. With the newfound knowledge that some of their recent experiences were indeed induced, Luck began to reevaluate their recent timeline. They started correlating events backward and considering their future with a newfound mistrust of many individuals. Their primary concern was for their traveling friend, and they worried even more about their and others' well-being. Over the following weeks, Luck maintained a structured routine, balancing work and engagement with other patients in the clinic. They also dedicated time to open-source projects, making productive use of their days. Despite the absence of a garden on the property, Luck and other patients would still frequently enjoy the outdoors under professional supervision. Each week, Luck would have a ward round, and because Luck was visibly seen working on their communication device the majority of the time whilst also engaging well with others, the professional had decided that their time within the facility would be nearing an end. There was only one stumbling block, and this was where Luck would go after they were released. They did not wish to return to relatives. They no longer had any home, but they knew they needed to stay in their motherland as travel had been restricted further due to the global pandemic. Each week, Luck would partake in a ward round, and because of Luck's positive progress and engagement with their work and fellow patients, they had convinced the professionals at the clinic that they were almost ready for release. There was only one stumbling block, the question of where they go after being discharged. They did not wish to return to relatives. They no longer had a place to call home. Additionally, travel restrictions due to the ongoing pandemic complicated their options. Luck made the decision to find somewhere of their own for a while so the pandemic could play out, using the money they had saved while borrowing a small amount from a financial provider. They started the process of finding a property in the settlement they were familiar with, the one they had grown up in. This would take some time to finalize. So, for that time, they booked a temporary rental nearby to ensure they had a place to stay while making the necessary arrangements. As Luck prepared to leave the facility and move into their temporary rental, they carried with them the experiences, questions, and concerns from their recent journey. The road ahead was uncertain, but they were determined to regain a sense of normalcy and continue their life in their motherland. Luck conveyed their decision to the professional, who then ensured the relevant authorities were informed. With this process completed, Luck received notification that they would be discharged the following day, and arrangements for transportation were made. While they anticipated the next phase of their journey, the lingering questions and concerns about their past experiences continued to weigh on their mind. In hindsight, this was the best institution of all we've been to. We have some respect for some of those professionals. The other recovered but is apparently not the same person as before.